I'm going to blow your minds. File new, starting from scratch. In fact, just any size, something so you guys can see it. And here it is, starting in here. And let's just go back to a simple example, because I want to make sure we're all at the same page. Selecting, you know, for instance, this heart, right? Or drawing a heart. This could be any color. Let's make it red. Okay. Same process. Jumping out there, opening up the 3D panel. Making that extrusion, right? And watch, I'll show you what happens. Look. So it'll take whatever image or color is going to be on that side, right? That's what's going on there. At any time, I can jump in. I can literally jump in here and just use my paintbrush and start to paint on any side that I want to, just like I'm doing right now, guys. So I can go ahead. I could add type, add your boyfriend, girlfriend's name right on the side, right? You could do that. And if this is printed in sandstone, you would actually get that. I'm going to undo that because I might. Oh, yes. Let's do that. Here is my brush. Those are hearts that I'm painting onto it, just kind of for fun, right? Okay, so what's going on there? Well, it's this extrusion material. So I'm going to come right over here. I'm selecting that extrusion, and it actually already made this little bitmap there. But if I wanted to, I can actually, rather than painting on this 3D stuff, check it out. I can just jump in here, hold on, hit Edit Texture, and that's what I've painted, right? So if I want to instead, and let me just move this off to the side, you know, maybe we want to do something different, like grab the, I'm kind of losing my mind right now. Where is the gradient? There it is. I'm just going to change this, but I'm going to change that to something like that, right? And I'm going to save it, and you can see how it changed over here, right? I can do whatever I want over here, and it's just like painting on the object. So this is how all the guys who do textures, the designers that do textures for games, are working in a mode kind of like this, where they're painting here or painting on the object, and they see it reflected. But all you need to do is grab the brush and start painting away, right? That was only half of it, though, right? I kind of liked the. That's actually. Hey, let's go with it. This is colorful. Check this out. Next up. Ready for this? Again, seemingly innocent. Oh, it's just a nice little heart. Let's rotate it up just for fun. Jump in there, do our fun like extrusions, maybe do a twist, right? Let's taper it down like that, right? Check this out, guys. Like, I think this is pretty cool. I want to turn this into a vase now, I just decided. A 3D object, right? I have the color, I understand that. What needs to happen for this? I need to pop the top off, right? How do I pop the top off? Do I have to make a different mesh with it empty or whatever? Check this out. I can go to the front inflation material. It should be that one. Yeah, that's the one. Selecting that, I can just take the opacity down to 0, and I've just made it hollow. I mean, do you guys want that to be harder? Because it's not. It's that easy. I mean, you got to be kidding me. Jumping in there, you know, and I've just made it hollow. Yes, it is very psychedelic with the color. I realize that. So at this point, I'll just change it. Go red. But yeah, that's basically hollow. And even if I change the lighting, you can see that it is empty right in there. I can do something even more advanced, guys, because I think that's pretty cool. But for the material on the side, what if I wanted to do like cool lattice work or something else, which wouldn't make for a great vase, because it would have holes throughout it. But what if I wanted to do just like a neat design, and maybe it is a pen holder or something like that? go into that extrusion material. Remember, we played with the opacity, but check this out. I'm going to make a new texture. Let's just go with that size. Let's see what it does. And I'm going to edit that texture, okay? So here's this texture, and at this point, I'm going to just add something like this, just for the sake of time. Jump in there and do something like that, right? So there's my lattice work. I'm editing the opacity material, right? So masking in Photoshop, you know whatever's black, you're going to be able to see through it. Whatever's white's going to show up. It's the same concept here. I'm saying, hey, you know, whatever's white, you're going to see, but I'll close that, and that's what I just did. What? Oh, that's where you guys are like, that's good stuff. Slow, yeah, I clap for myself, apparently. Who does that? Am I the first person to do that, by the way, or have other people? Oh, other people do too. Okay, well, we all have like egos, apparently, and because this is fun stuff. And yeah, I didn't make Photoshop, but I'm going to exploit it for all it's worth. Look at that. I mean, tell me that's not cool, right? That is straight up cool. If I try to print this, that's going to be another story, right? I haven't even talked about the scaffolding too much. But actually, no, this would be a fine print. That's what I do. I jump in here, scene, come over here. Let's make it, let's go to Sculptio this time. Let's make it red polished plastic. Selecting that, and I know it doesn't look like it is transparent, but it will be when I hit print, right? Oh, darn it. So you guys get the idea. But in general, that's what I'd do. I'd select a plastic material, I'd send it to Sculptio or Shapeways, and then I'd get it in my house a days later, right? Do you guys, any more questions? Did you have a question?
Going back to the car, the 3D car that you got, is that going to be, is that something that's designed in another Adobe program, or is it something like you would buy like stock photography off from a company? You know, and what would be available? Just anything? You know, a model of a hamburger, a truck, a car? Or... Yeah,
that's a good question. Like, so where do you get this content? That model, in that particular case, we got it from Audi. So we're working with Audi, and that's how their art department, if you will, that's how they do things. So it was probably modeled in their expensive, you know, architectural style modeling software, and then they kick out a model like something easy. It could be your DAE or whatever random, like your OBJ file. And so the point is it could come from any other program. It's not going to come from another Adobe program or Photoshop. It's going to come from a 3D program, and then we can load it into Photoshop. And then we can do the lighting and position that into a scene. So that's how that's done. And you know, kind of to finish up there, I just went to get more 3D content. And that's where you'll find some various materials. So you'll have all these various companies where you can get models and meshes and different things, right? So and it's really easy. And just by the way, even for Sculptio, even, or excuse me, Shapeways, real fast, and then I'll answer your question. Thingiverse. Thingiverse is one that's not. I didn't see it there. Oh no, it is. Sorry, there it is. Thingiverse is a really popular one, specific to 3D printing. So this is where I got the iPhone case, like the bumper, right? That's where I got it. And then I made this design myself. So I got the bumper, if you will, and then I just filled it in. So, yeah.
Yeah, now, if you went back to any one of your other shapes you created, but if you went back to like the heart you just did, and you wanted to stick like a square base onto it, how do you stick the base onto it?
And you're just a base as part of the design?
Yes.
Great question. And this all comes back down to basic shapes, guys. So I'd come in here, and literally I'm just doing a right click, and I think it's actually available down here as well. But nonetheless, it's going to be adding it. Actually, let's do this. Let's do 3D. New mesh from layer, just so you guys can see that better. But I would jump in, and I would do a cube, right? So watch this. Check this out, because this is what you're going to run into. You're going to grab a model, and then you're going to extrude something. Like, how do I put those things together? Like selecting cube. Oh, let's do this. This is what's going to happen. You're going to do 3D. give me a cube, and this is what happens. Like you have this cube that's part of a different universe. It's like we have parallel universes going on. It's not part of the heart's universe. So that's when you need to jump in. This is really important. I'm going to select those 2 layers, right? And then I want to do merge 3D layers. Take those 2 worlds and make them part of one. So that's probably the biggest thing that, write that down. Does that, yeah, go ahead, yeah.
Okay, so on your heart there, if you send it in to get it printed, it would have a bunch of little scaffoldings between the things, right? Is there a way you could make it one swirly stripe instead of several one stripes?
That's really good thinking. So you're right. You're kind of thinking ahead, as in, yes. First of all, just a correction. The scaffolding that's going to be the case for your printer in the other room, right? That's what's happening for those type of printers. Shapeways and Sculptio, they do everything based on that powder, so there are no supports that get built in. So it's going to be super clean. Does that make sense? It's kind of like that. I don't know I didn't really let that video play very long, but it's that powder, so you don't need any of those supports. But I like how you're thinking, because I would start thinking like that. If I have a printer, I would make it in such a way that it doesn't have to build up all those scaffoldings. So I would jump in this case. I would go to that extrusion material, go into that texture right here, and we'll move that off to the side. So rather than having that go so horizontally, I would rotate it, make it larger. This is kind of a guessing game at this point. But already we know that shape is going to be successful because they're going upward. Does that make sense? I don't know if that answers your question. Okay. Does it?
It's closer. It's not like I could go do this,
What's that?
It's not like I could go do this right now. So.
Well, by all means, like you guys, I will, hit me up. My Twitter handle is right here, by the way. And that's probably the best way to get a hold of me, @PaulTrani. As you dive into this, because I really want you guys to be successful at this. But you're right, I'd probably adjust that so it does angle like so, and have it work that way. So in general, that's what you can do. All right. Yeah.
Can I ask one more? A lot of us watching are probably photographers also. How can we utilize, what ways are you utilizing portraits and making those 3D?
Yeah.
Can you do that?
Yes, you can. I don't know if you guys can hand me that black box there. Just hand me the whole box and I'll just show you. So great question. So photography and 3D printing. My initial thought with that really is, I think of the selfies, because think about it. Like you could be a wedding photographer. You do all that, but really the big kicker there, guys, and even like I said, new materials coming out all the time. Yeah. I don't know if you've seen this, but you could have the couple printed out in full color sugar and have them on top of the wedding cake. Yeah. And that's a service you might be able to offer, seriously. What it actually takes in that case is they have to go down, just like I did. Artec 3D is a company actually in Palo Alto is where I did this, but you just stand in, they'd have the wedding couple, you get that digital file, you can do whatever you want with it, right? The sugar aspect is something that's like brand spanking new. It's not there yet, but, yeah.
Is there a resource that has a list of 3D photography locations for couples to go to? Because Palo Alto is not going to be accessible for everyone.
Yeah, I know, that's so true. Yeah, honestly, it's kind of keeping track of sort of the various blogs. Unfortunately, I wish there was one, but it's just doing some research for your area. There's one in New York City, again, Silicon Valley like we just mentioned, but that's the idea. They want to start opening up these little, just like you have your glamour shots at the mall or whatever, the idea is like, yeah, you can go get scanned, and then an hour later, ideally, you'd have your little mini-me, But that's a service you'd want to, offer your clients potentially. Another thing I was just going to mention is a lithophane. Do you guys know lithophanes? Like it's this, and your results may vary. It is right in here, but taking a photo and making it sort of a relief or like a depth map. And I mean, this is, you know, I mean, maybe not the best example, but all I did, I'll show you how I made this, but I just took a photo, so of my dad, right? And I've added depth to it using the bump map, right? And turned this into, again, this lithophane, which looks really cool in the lighting if I would have had more detail here. But what's happening here is like the blacks recede and then the whites come forward, right? So that gives you that depth. But I'm glad you mentioned that. So if you wanted to do something simple like this, guys, I just knocked this out. Didn't take me long, because luckily, what did I do? I went to get more content, went out here, and actions and scripts is where you can get a script that's your lithophane script in here. So I won't really run through it right now, but I will just show you really fast. Actions, lithophane. So download the actions, and then you'll get that lithophane, and you can do this with a photo. Cool? And this is really just a 3D file. The fact that I printed out in this material was what I just kind of wanted to do, but it could just as easily be a metal or whatever. Now you guys want to see that, don't you? 2 seconds. I'm all about going on tangents. But yeah, let me just grab this. Again, I don't know why I picked this embarrassing. This is ridiculous, but bear with me. It's an action. There it is. Let's close that. Save. And there it is. Make lithophane. Ready for this? So here it is. This is not. Okay, hold on. This was not rehearsed. That's why that happened. Oh, everybody, did you look at the models over there? Did you guys see that? Did you guys, everybody get a good look at those? The problem there is I didn't have my file set up. I just needed to keep that as a background, and it would go ahead and make that relief, and then it's a 3D model. And what did I have to do? Nothing, right? Piece of cake.